My 28 female boyfriend's ex hid a note about his cleaning, dating habits right before they broke up that I just found. How do I talk to him? I want to share a story that took an unexpected turn in my relationship. It all started when I stumbled upon a note hidden in the back of a cabinet while I was cleaning our apartment. My boyfriend, whom I'll call Steve, and I have been together for 2 years and living together for about 8 months. The note was addressed to Steve's future girlfriend, and it was a warning about his cleaning and dating habits. The author, who I later learned was his ex, Natalia, wrote that Steve wouldn't clean, wouldn't listen, and would make everything feel like it was my fault. The note concluded with a suggestion to leave him, as she was doing. I was taken aback by what I read. When I showed the note to Steve, he reacted strongly. He ripped it up and insisted that Natalia was crazy and untrustworthy. I expressed my concern that he hadn't found the note in the 5 years since they broke up, which suggested he hadn't cleaned that area in a long time. I pointed out that since we moved in together, his cleaning habits had noticeably declined. He argued that this was just his ex trying to manipulate him, and I was letting her words affect our relationship. After a heated discussion, I decided to spend the night at a friend's place. Despite the argument, I knew Steve was a good boyfriend overall. He treated me well, got along with my family, and often expressed his love for me. However, the cleaning issue had been bothering me for a while. I noticed that the division of chores had shifted from being 50-50 to more like 70-30 in my favor. I found myself constantly reminding him to do simple tasks like taking his plates to the sink or throwing out the trash. The note made me reflect on these issues more seriously, and I wanted to have a full conversation about it. But when I tried to bring it up, Steve became fixated on the note instead of addressing my concerns. He accused me of letting the note cloud my judgment and insisted that I was biased against him because of it. I felt conflicted. On one hand, I understood that his ex might have been manipulative, but on the other hand, I couldn't ignore my feelings about the cleaning situation. I didn't want to throw away 2 years of our relationship over this, but I also knew I needed to address it. After a night of contemplation, I decided to return home and try to communicate better. I planned to apologize for how I had approached the situation and to acknowledge that finding an ex's note could be difficult. I also wanted to express that I didn't want to be in a relationship where I had to constantly remind him to clean. As I prepared to talk to him, I hoped we could establish some clear expectations regarding chores and responsibilities. I knew that cleaning was a deal breaker for me, and it was important for him to understand that. When I returned, I tried to initiate a calm discussion. I started by apologizing for confronting him with the note, but unfortunately, he interpreted my apology as an admission of guilt. He became defensive and refused to listen to anything else I had to say. At that moment, I realized that communication would be key in resolving this issue. I needed to find a way to express my concerns without triggering his defensiveness. It was clear that we had some serious discussions ahead of us if we wanted to move forward together. This experience taught me the importance of open communication in a relationship, especially when it comes to addressing concerns that can impact both partners. I hope to find a way to navigate this situation with Steve, ensuring that we both feel heard and respected in our home. As I continue to work through this, I appreciate any advice or insights from others who may have faced similar challenges in their relationships. Thank you for listening to my story. I recently found myself in a situation that made me reevaluate my relationship with my boyfriend Steve. It all started when I discovered a note written by his ex-girlfriend, Natalia, which detailed some of his cleaning habits and how they affected their relationship. As I read through it, I felt a mix of emotions: curiosity, concern, and a hint of disbelief. How could someone I cared about have such a troubling past? I decided to confront Steve about the note and the issues it raised. I thought it was important to address the lack of cleanliness in our home, which had become a growing concern for me. However, when I brought it up, he reacted defensively, accusing me of using his ex's words against him. This led to a heated argument where he even tried to block me from leaving the room. It was then that I realized this relationship was not what I thought it was. After 2 years together, I felt like I had wasted my time. But in that moment of clarity, I knew I had to leave. I decided to let him cool off and planned to ask my brother to help me gather my things while Steve was at work. I figured it would be easier that way. I even planned to leave a note behind, not to hurt him, but as a reminder of what he needed to improve on, specifically cleaning up after himself. The most surprising part of this whole ordeal was that Natalia reached out to me. She wanted to make sure I was okay, expressing concern that Steve might try to gaslight me, just as he had with her. I was grateful for her support and for the note she had left behind. It felt like a wake-up call, and I was relieved to have someone who understood what I was going through. We decided to meet for coffee to discuss everything further. Reflecting on my relationship, I realized that while Steve had some redeeming qualities, like remembering my favorite flowers and sharing hobbies, he had also been neglecting our connection. Since moving in together, I noticed he was putting in less effort to engage with me. I had tried to address the cleaning issue multiple times, but it seemed to fall on deaf ears. As I prepared to go back to our place to collect my belongings, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. I knew I needed to apologize for how I had approached the conversation about the note. Instead of comforting him, I had jumped straight into discussing the cleaning issue, which only escalated the conflict. The next day, I found myself reflecting on the comments I received from others who had read my story. Many pointed out that I was not breaking up with Steve over a note or chores, but rather because of his unhealthy responses to conflict. His yelling and attempts to control the situation were red flags that I could no longer ignore. I reached out to Natalia again, sharing my thoughts and feelings. She was supportive and helped me see that I needed to prioritize my safety and well-being. She even informed me about my rights regarding our lease, explaining that I could legally exit it due to the emotional abuse I had experienced. With this newfound clarity, I decided to take action. I contacted my landlord to discuss my options and arranged to retrieve my pets, 2 frogs and a snake, immediately. I realized that waiting could put them at risk, especially if Steve's temper flared. As I navigated this challenging situation, I felt a sense of empowerment. I had learned valuable lessons about self-respect and the importance of healthy relationships. While it was painful to end a 2-year relationship, I knew it was the right decision for my future. I was grateful for the support I received from Natalia and my friends, and I felt hopeful about what lay ahead. In the end, I learned that recognizing the signs of an unhealthy relationship is crucial. I was ready to embrace a new chapter in my life, one where I could focus on my happiness and well-being. I never thought I would find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, ready to share my journey of breaking free from a toxic relationship. It all started with my boyfriend, Steve. At first, everything seemed perfect. He was charming, attentive, and made me feel special. But as time went on, I began to notice some troubling behaviors that I brushed aside, thinking they were just quirks of his personality. One day, I stumbled upon a note that Steve's ex-girlfriend had left behind. It was a shocking revelation about his controlling nature and how he had manipulated her during their relationship. The note detailed his constant messaging, his control over what she wore, and how these behaviors were signs of emotional abuse. Reading those words was like a wake-up call for me. I realized that I had been experiencing similar treatment, and it was time to take a step back and reevaluate my situation. With the help of my brother and a close friend named Natalia, I decided to confront the reality of my relationship. Natalia had been a great support throughout this process, and she even volunteered to accompany me when I needed to talk to our landlord about breaking the lease. When I mentioned the word lawyer, Steve quickly agreed to let me out of the lease, but I still had to pay for a few days, even though I was leaving early. It felt fair enough, considering the circumstances. However, when I returned to the apartment to pack my things, I was met with a shocking sight. The place was a complete mess. Steve had broken my dishes and left the shards scattered across the floor. My clothes were ripped and strewn about, and it broke my heart to see the state of our home. To make matters worse, he had left our lizard alone, but had opened the tank doors for our frogs and my snake. Thankfully, I found my snake hiding safely in a corner, but the thought of her being in danger was infuriating. As I packed my belongings, Natalia revealed that she had left 3 notes for Steve during their relationship, hidden in various places around the apartment. We decided to check if they were still there, and to our surprise, one note was still tucked away in the vacuum cleaner. It seemed Steve had cleaned out the crumb catcher at least once in the past 5 years, but he never bothered to look for the other notes. This realization made me question how well I really knew him. The state of the apartment and the discovery of the notes made me reflect on my relationship with Steve. I had thought I knew him well, but the truth was I had been blind to the signs of his true nature. It was a sobering moment that made me realize I needed to prioritize my well-being. I understood that abuse often starts subtly, with love bombing and sweet words, before gradually escalating into control and manipulation. I was grateful to have recognized these patterns before it became too late. With Natalia's support, I was able to safely get my things and leave the toxic environment behind. I made an appointment with a therapist to work through my experiences and focus on setting boundaries in future relationships. I felt fortunate that my job provided good insurance, allowing me to access the help I needed. As I moved forward, I found comfort in the idea that sometimes, when we let go of something harmful, we make space for something better. Natalia, who had been a wonderful friend throughout this ordeal, reminded me that after leaving an unhealthy relationship, a soulmate could be just around the corner. I held on to that hope as I began to heal. In closing, I want to share a message for anyone who might find themselves in a similar situation. Recognizing the signs of emotional abuse can be difficult, but it's crucial to listen to your instincts. You deserve to be in a relationship where you feel safe, respected, and valued. Remember, you don't have to put up with anything less than that. My journey has taught me the importance of self-love and the power of friendship, and I hope my story can inspire others to seek the help they need and break free from toxic relationships. I want to share my journey, one that has been filled with ups and downs, but ultimately led me to a brighter place. It all started with a relationship that turned sour, and the aftermath was something I never expected to face. After a difficult breakup with my ex-partner Steve, I found myself in a precarious situation. The relationship had its fair share of challenges, but nothing could prepare me for the moment when I discovered a hidden note from his ex-girlfriend. This note detailed his cleaning habits and dating behaviors, and it felt like a punch to the gut. I was left wondering how to approach the topic of cleanliness in our relationship without making it seem like I was using his ex's words against him. As I navigated these feelings, I also had to confront the chaos that Steve had left in his wake. The relationship had become toxic, and I realized I needed to take action to protect myself. With the support of a friend named Natalia, I found the courage to press charges against Steve for the damage he had caused to my belongings. It was a tough decision, but I knew it was necessary not just for me, but for anyone who might find themselves in a similar situation in the future. After I reported him, the police took swift action. They interviewed Steve and the landlord, and the evidence of the destruction was enough for the landlord to evict him. It was a bittersweet victory, knowing that Steve had effectively ruined his own life through his actions. I took a week off work to recover, and during that time, I found a new place to live, albeit at a higher cost. Returning to work was daunting. I was still shaken from the experience, and one day, I spotted Steve parked in the lot. My heart raced as I recorded the encounter on my phone, following my lawyer's advice to document everything. When I tried to walk into my building, Steve approached me, claiming he wanted to apologize. But when I told him to leave me alone, he became aggressive, blaming me for ruining his life. Thankfully, a coworker intervened, and with his help, I was able to get a restraining order against Steve. Fast forward to now, and I can finally say that I'm in a much better place. After months of therapy and support from my workplace, I feel safe again. I moved to a new state, and in a twist of fate, I met someone wonderful, a librarian who asked me out after we struck up a conversation. Initially nervous, I agreed to meet him in a public space, and to my surprise, we hit it off. This new relationship has been a breath of fresh air. My partner is attentive and caring. He does the dishes without me asking, and even surprises me with little things, like buying my favorite granola when he notices I'm running low. It's a stark contrast to my past, and I'm grateful for the love and respect he shows me. As for my pet snake, Raspberry, she's thriving in her new home. I even upgraded her enclosure as a reward for her resilience during the move. Looking back, I realize how far I've come. The experience with Steve taught me invaluable lessons about self-worth and the importance of surrounding myself with supportive people. Natalia and I still keep in touch, sharing TikToks and memories, but we both understand that our paths have diverged. While I chose not to pursue legal action against Steve for the damages, knowing that he faced eviction and potential legal consequences from the landlord provided me with some closure. In the end, I learned that sometimes the worst experiences can lead to the best outcomes. I'm grateful for the community that supported me, and I hope my story can inspire others who might be facing their own challenges. Life has a way of surprising us, and I'm excited to see where this new chapter takes me. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that.